We're good to begin the meeting, Mayor Martin.
All right then, so I'll call this special council meeting to order. The reason for this meeting is for the budget. Our last budget meeting was on January 27th, and hopefully this meeting here, we can nail down a few more things as we did in the last meeting and try and come to a resolution here. I'll remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And so we'll go right into the general discussion here, and I'll probably open it up to Wendolyn to go through her summary sheet there, and we'll see where we're at. Does that work for you, Wendolyn?
Yep. Good morning, Mayor Martin, Council. So just an overview from the changes from the last budget meeting. We're sitting at a 1.72% tax levy increase. So that's dollars for dollars from last year to this year. And we're sitting at a 1.14% tax rate increase. So that is where a little bit of growth, whether it be new buildings, et cetera, have come online. So I'm thinking maybe we can, if Bianca shares the highlight notes from the January 27th meeting, we could kind of go through those. And if there was any questions from council or any other items, then we can deal with that.
That should work. So yeah, last year we got through the budget before we before COVID. I think we passed the budget during COVID, but we got through everything just before. So it has been a bit of a challenge trying to come up with a virtual format, but we're doing the best we can with what we have. So, okay, go ahead, Wendolyn.
Yeah, so item number 1, we talked about that at management meeting. Oh, no, sorry, that's the, I was thinking the roof. Anyways, that was completed. So that's off the, so that will be changed in the reserve schedule going forward in 2021. Same with number 2. So number 3, we talked about that at the management meeting. And because of the amount of the project, it would have to be tendered or quotation, depending on how it's broken out between the roof, the HVAC system, etc. So we didn't want to compromise anyone's quotation before an official RFP or tender went out. So it would come back to council in a report, and then you would approve it at that time with whatever quotations or submissions come in at that time. So I didn't know if there was any other questions on that.
Yeah, I think as long as it's in there, it's yeah, we can deal with it as we get to the next stage, which would be putting out an RFP for it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So number 4, yeah, so the entrance signs was removed from the budget documents that you just received. So that's all been incorporated, and Laura will take that to the Economic Development Committee and come back in 2020.
And that's there's something, Wendolyn, that I think somebody had said that maybe we can look at them over the summer and
yes,
have a better plan next year. Like I think Dave or somebody had said about you know, just a coat of paint will do wonders for this year. But then, like everything else, we'll try and have a better plan for the next budget as far as what we're going to do with our entrance signs all around the township, or if anything needs to be done.
yeah, so like once spring gets here, they can take pictures and whatnot, and maybe, you know, look at all that different in their committee meeting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So number 5, that was added into the budget to come from reserves. So that's been done. Number 6.
Well, sorry, we'll just do them individually there, just so, like, Peter is on here, I think, and yep. We have had some issues, but that might be something with the new things that came forward this week as far as separating out the tractor and that. Maybe Peter can explain the
Sure.
replacement there, so it's a little, so everyone can understand it, because I know we had questions last time, and it's a little clearer now that he's got a plan in place with this. So if he's there, he can maybe speak to it.
Mhm.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to provide some answers there. So I have done some research on this machine, and going over all of our attachments. The snow blower is still in great shape. The broom, we've replaced the drive motors on it, and that is in great shape. And the plow is just the wear parts, and like cutting edges and so forth. So my thought was, with the new hopper being put into the budget, along with the replacement cost of the actual tractor, when the township originally had bought the trackless machine, they bought all the attachments with it. I think there was a flail mower as well, the hopper, and so on. So I do have some prices here that I've put together. So the prices of the blower itself was $17,500. The plow was $7,500. The power angle sweeper was $7,650. And so if we take that off the price, the actual price of the tractor is $140,000 to replace. That's current price, like as of within 2 or 3 weeks. And the attachments are in good shape. If we replace the hopper, then we will be, we can just do the replacement with the tractor when it comes due in 2023, I believe it is, at its life expectancy.
I think that explanation helps a lot for council, because last meeting we were struggling with buying a new hopper and then getting rid of everything. But now that it's all broke out to individual pieces, it makes a lot more sense that, if you replace the tractor and all the equipment that goes with it is still good for several more years, it brings it down a lot. Because I think it was like $215,000 or $220,000 that we had in the replacement thing, where now it's down to like 140 or something. I think personally, that makes a lot more sense to buy that rear piece of equipment, and then all we're going to be looking at is a tractor replacement possibly in 2023.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify as well, all of our attachments, I did have an email stating that all of our attachments on an MT6 models, which we have now, will definitely fit on the new model, the MT7. So they're all compatible.
Yeah, so I think that makes it better for all of us. Does council have any questions with regards to that? Go ahead, Larry. You're muted there. You're muted, Larry.
Not going to happen again.
Well,
Sure you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Pete, for that report. As Mayor said, that explains things a little better, because we did have discussions around if we replace the machine, maybe go in the direction of our neighbors to the west there. I've noticed their unit that they use, but if we went that direction, all those good attachments would not fit to that, I presume. So that was a good report. It does give you a better insight as to the best direction to go when we're spending our money. So thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor Drew, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I just wanted to thank Peter and point out to council that when we did purchase this whole equipment deal and all the attachments, it certainly paid off in our last snowstorm. That the blower was certainly well used and worked well. So it was a good investment all around.
So I just wonder, Wendell, with the problems that we had this morning with that hopper, is it possible to get a resolution today if that's not going to leave the budget, if it's going to stay in there, instead of putting a lot more money into that old one? Is it possible to give Peter the authority to look at the new hopper earlier than, or before we pass the budget? Is there a way of getting a resolution that we get him to look?
I believe council passed that the hopper was approved
Okay.
last meeting, but I'll confer with Bob, let Bob maybe just talk on that, because I think that was the motion.
Okay,
Well, I would, through you, Mayor Martin, I would suggest that if we think there was a resolution at the last meeting, I would suggest let's pass one today, and let's just make
Yeah.
sure that even if we confirm that resolution, it's fine. So let's go ahead and do that.
okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux,
Oh, you're muted.
you're muted.
I'd be happy to make that motion, Mr. Mayor, and even if it wasn't, we can always make a pre-budget resolution, so.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we authorize Peter to look into replacing that hopper rather than putting more money into the old one.
Second that.
Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, Peter, so maybe see what you can do there.
Yep, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead, Gwendolyn.
So number 6, I'll let maybe Bob talk on that one. He's got some further information from the last meeting.
So through you, Mayor Martin, with respect to animal control, staff was requested to reach out to our current animal control officer with respect to the possibility of handling cat control as well. So we have had that discussion, and she is willing to help us. So that's just for council's information.
Okay, and I think as long as we do something there, who it is, you know, I think that's probably the cheaper alternative than the other one we had, possibly. So it's kind of a work in progress, but unless we use it, there won't be any budget implications. Is that right?
No, that's correct, Mayor Martin. If we don't make use of the service, then there's no expense there.
Yeah, so that has not been built into this draft budget. So if you wanted to maybe pursue cat tags or whatever with any bylaw changes, that is not in the budget, just to be clear.
Okay. Okay. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a fruitless thing to add to our budget, because we only had 2 complaints last year, and one was serious, but it could be handled differently. And it's going to be pretty hard, but to patrol. Like feral cats don't stay in one place too long, and I sure as heck wouldn't want to chase one and try to catch it. But I just can't see the point of having a cat bylaw. I think it's just another headache for us.
Okay. So it's up to council. Anybody else got any comments with regards to that? It's I don't know what the cost would be to putting tags in place. Even if you use the dog tags, I don't know. You know, it's not like you say, it would only be a little bit of selling tags, and we'd have better control of how many are in town as far as the legal ones anyways. But it doesn't matter to me. I just know we have a problem, and we're gonna have to deal with it, whether we go through the courts or we go through, it'll be a lot more expensive going that way, but whatever council wants to do here, we don't have to do anything. We can just keep working on this, but something has to be done, that's all. So go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I think we should have a report come back from staff and give us the alternatives on this, because it's there is another way out without having an enforcement officer and a bylaw, because of the bylaw for catering, to 2 people or 3 in the whole township, it doesn't seem fair to put the burden on the taxpayer. So I think if staff could come back with some answers for us on what we could do to cure the problem without having added to the bylaw, and more paperwork for tags and so on and so forth. You're not going to get the people to buy tags anyway, especially feral cats. There's nothing we can do about them. That's just my own thought, but I think that there is an alternative to handling this.
Okay, so we'll just keep working on the alternative. It's not gonna go away. It's gonna keep coming back. So as far as for the budget, there's no sense in holding the budget up for this item. The only thing with the budget there, we do need to look at the cost of 3 dog tags compared to 2. We allow 3 dogs, but we charge more money for the 3rd tag. So it doesn't make sense. And it's something that we were supposed to deal with last year. So I just wonder, the early date is March 1st for the tags. Is that right, Wendell?
Yes, so the bills went out in January and they're due in March.
So from what I understand, there's only a half a dozen tags here for people that have more than 2 dogs, but it's just, it needs cleaned up. Somehow we got in there about, if you have a 3rd dog, it costs you more for that tag. And I don't know where that came from. And it's only affecting the honest people because not a lot of people get tags. But anyways, I just wonder what council's thoughts are if we could clean that bylaw up, that the 3rd tag is the same price. 3 dogs is the same price as 2. Dave, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I totally agree. This should have been cleaned up before now. It's one of those things that fell off the plate. We didn't mean it to, but I don't know the policies and procedures. I would ask Gwendolyn, is there any possible way that staff can clean this up, even though we're only a few days short of dog tags?
Well, at first, the bylaw would have to be changed by council in order that to be done. So it would have to come to another council meeting to be reviewed. So that would be after March the 1st.
So what I've been telling people is don't buy your tag till after we get this dealt with. That's the easiest way, and staff could do the same thing, is just say, you know, hold off, we're going to be changing the bylaw if we know that. And like I say, it's only a half a dozen people that do it anyway, so it's not a big onerous job. But go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I think the reason that the 3rd dog with more money was we don't want, you know, that many dogs in town. It'll affect, you know, there's no kennels. It's the thing that bothered me most here, I think, is reading your email, Jim, saying you're telling people not to pay for their tags. Well, it hasn't been passed by council, you know, for to not pay the tags, and we haven't made a decision. So I don't think it's fair at this time to try to clean it up this year, because we're going to have it brought to a meeting and see if council, you know, wants the 3 dog limit. And the reason for the 3 dog limit before, the 3rd dog costing more, was to discourage people from having so many dogs. You know, you're worried about cats. Well, dogs are just as bad. Anyway, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
If you read the whole email, it said that they didn't, that I asked for this last year and it didn't happen last year. It didn't get on the agenda. So I brought it up last year for this thing. It's been around for a few years. I didn't just bring this up last week. It's that's what they're asking, is I thought it was supposed to be dealt with last year. And I said, you know, I totally forgot about it. But I did take it to staff to ask them to deal with it last year. So, okay. I'm sure it's a simple thing. Like I say, there's 6 things. And if you want to continue to have 3 dogs pay more, Barry, make the motion that we just leave it as it is, and then people know where you stand.
Okay, we can leave it as, I'll make a motion, we leave it as it is, and we can discuss it at a council meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? I can't see everyone, but.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor. We get on with
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Comments, questions?
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Art.
So in terms of dealing with it, does that mean like we'll be dealing with it at the first meeting in March, or does this mean we're just going to kick this into the summer and worry about it next budget? Because I can't see, I understand Councillor Pomeroy's point in terms of having a good look at it, but I can't see why this is something that, council couldn't have decided in the next month or so, and we
Yeah.
could just go from there. So,
Next council meeting.
well, then I'd be in agreement with that.
Okay. So do you want to add that to that we bring it back to the first meeting or the next council meeting, Councillor Pomeroy?
Yeah, I think I expressed that.
You okay with that, Councillor Ellis?
I'm
Okay.
okay.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So, okay, carry on. Larry, go ahead.
Without going around in circles here any further about the cat bylaw, I don't think there was a firm decision what we're doing there. If we're going to rediscuss the dog tag first meeting in March, maybe more discussion and some input from staff regarding the cat bylaw. We could do that as well on the first meeting in March.
You can make that motion, Councillor Ellis.
I would make that motion then.
Okay,
Something decided here.
okay. Is there a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Giroux? Any questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Gwendolyn?
Okay, so the cleaner contract that's been worked on, and it's almost ready for advertisement. So I don't know if Bob has any more comments on that.
Through you, Mayor Martin. So the only comments to offer is there is a draft advertisement just about ready to go out. We have looked at the frequency and location of cleaning. So for the most part, we're going to leave that flexible, sort of on an as needed basis. Obviously, the municipal office will be cleaned every day and other locations will be on an as needed basis to accommodate the concerns that council have expressed previously.
Okay. It is something we need to get on with, but I'm not sure what's happening right now. So what's council's thoughts there? I'm not seeing any. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, get her done. We've started the process, so get it there and get her advertised and see how we make out.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we move on with the process and get it going. Seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? I can't see Dave, so there you are.
If you can't see me, Mr. Mayor, I will just step in. Well, I just want a question on the motion. We've asked several times and we are getting information to move on with this cleaning position. My question is, this will not really impact the budget if we don't find a suitable candidate, other than the fact that would be a minus to that particular department in the budget. What I'm saying is we can still pass the budget before because this may take a long time. So I don't want to hold the budget up for this item, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'd ask staff for their input on this.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, this advertisement does not hold up the budget. We can proceed with budget.
Thank you.
Okay. So the motion was so it's leaving it in the budget anyways, I guess is where the motion's going there, Bob, as far as it's not going to hold the budget up here, but we're moving to that. Leave it in there, right?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, well, cleaning expenses are part of the budget either way. So it does not hold up the budget at all.
Okay, but you will be able to start moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So we had a mover and a seconder. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Hart, I think Hart, I can't see Hart, so are you okay with that? Oh. Okay,
Okay.
there you are. As soon as somebody speaks, they come back in and then now Larry's gone. So anyways, okay, we'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so number 8, that has been added into the budget under the housing project. So there was $10,000 added into that project, and that would be coming from OMPF funds.
Okay. All right, then. Any questions with regards to that? Okay, move on.
Number 9, that was already approved, so it's just noting what happened at the last meeting. Was there any questions on that? And then the same thing with number 10, that was added into the budget to come from the OMPF funds. Is there any?
That's something, I think that's something at the end of here, as far as we'll find out where the, once again, the OMPF and all the grants that we have, what are allocated, what isn't, what's available to us in case we want to move on with, say, the recreation master plan. If we wanted to carry on a little farther into that, we'll know where we are with the grants and things. Is that right, Wenlin?
Yes. And don't forget, like, once the budget's passed, and if something has moved forward within this budget quickly, and there's time to do something else within the year, the managers can come back to council and have another resolution to carry forward with any master plans, etc.
Perfect. Okay, Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, do we have an or like a rough guess in terms of how much is left of the OMPF after the budget allocations?
Just bear with me here.
Yep.
So it'd be just under 3 million, roughly, from 2020, without including the 1.3 million from 2021. And then don't forget, we're going to be drawing on that in 2021 from several projects as well.
That's the number we're going to need when we're.
So that's on
Yeah.
the capital sheet that I
Yeah.
provided you, in the column that where it shows where it's coming from OMPF for all the different projects. So that'll give you the running total there.
So some of those things, before we finalize things, there's some of those things that, you know, we've allocated, but maybe won't be moving forward. So we'll be able to use some judgment calls on there, or whether we put it off till next budget and use it this year.
So I'll have a more updated, like, I was waiting for a few decisions today to be able to come up with a summary sheet so that once I present the final budget, that would be clear on where we stand on that.
Okay, that's going to help us make the final.
Yes.
Okay. Is that good, Councillor Webb?
Yeah, I just like some clarity in terms of, I guess there's even more money there than I thought there was. And how much is left, what's already been allocated for. So, because I think as we all discussed, we got a number of projects that we have planned coming up here. And we'd all like to get moving forward. So I'd like to know how much is there and what we have to use, so.
For sure.
So that's what we'll zero in on before we finalize the budget. As far as the final passing of the budget, we'll focus on the reserves, and because it's a big document to kind of follow everything. So right now we're dealing with all these one-offs, and then we'll look at the grants there and make sure that we're using them like you said. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 11, so the grant opportunities potentially for the wastewater treatment cell. Peter and I both reached out to Aqua, and they're still researching some potential grant opportunities, but nothing really definite. But I'll let Peter maybe discuss anything he wants to there.
That's for 11 and 12, basically.
Yes.
For the
Yeah, Peter
kinda
did
tied
get some prices back for the well too, so I'll let him discuss that.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to council. I did reach out to Amber Bevan there with Aqua, and I have the email up on my other computer. It states for about $500,000 to drill a new well, and approximately 1 million for the buildings and all the components that go along with it. So that was an estimate from an engineer that has recently done a new well and well house and components. So it's about 1.5 million is an estimate that I have from Amber on a new, whole brand new well.
Okay, thank you. And that's, yeah, so those two are things, like as far as budget implications, I don't think there's anything in there right now for them, is there, Gwendolyn?
No, so I think it was Deputy Mayor Dro that was asking about the well, to compare the costs versus doing potentially the ozone project. So that's not built into the budget yet. So if council wanted to proceed with the ozone project, that would have to be added in.
So here again, it's one of those things that these two are tied closely together, whether it's the cost of a new well or the ozone top set to find out what the difference in cost would be. I'm just wondering if we should be just directing staff to keep working on this so we can make an educated decision instead of trying to do a guesstimate here as far as which is better off, whether we go with a new well or which, you know, I think it will be expensive, but both these options are expensive. So what's your thoughts, Deputy Mayor Giroux?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Yes, I agree. I think we shouldn't pull anything off the table till we find out all the information that we can get. I don't think this is a proper time to put either one of them on the budget, but it's a work in progress, and Aqua is definitely looking for grants, and eventually they will come. So we have to bear this in mind. We have to bear in mind that we do have a goody well, and someday we're going to have to try our very best to clean that up. Which way we do that will be either up to this council or another council, but it's coming in the future, and I don't think we should take it off the table, but at this time I don't think it should be put in the budget. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll just leave it as a work in progress there, Gwendolyn?
Okay.
Is that okay with council? The rest of council? Okay. All right, Gwendolyn. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Okay. So number 13.
I had my hand up there.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah. I happened to be around when they were drilling, looking for all the wells. Even the one that we have over on well 3. And it's hard to find water. I don't care what, you know, for a large quantity of water. And a lot of the water around Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, a lot of it is either sulfur or there's not enough volume. This well we have here now has all kinds of volume. We have the building there. I think we should be utilizing what we have. We have the equipment. We have a storage tank. It's just, I think it's a fruitless thing for to try to find more water than what we have. For to clean it up in the future, it don't have to be done right now, but in the future, it's going to have to be done.
So I think that's what we've left it at, is staff's going to keep investigating and make sure we do the right thing here. Councillor Webb?
Yeah, just as part of that report, because I think we do need more information to have a good look at this. Could we get a kind of an, I don't know if you have you could break it down exactly, but find out how much it costs to operate the well 3 in terms of whether it's, I know we haven't gone to the ozone, but for the ultraviolet lights and, you know, just the overall cost to run that well. And then we can kind of compare that against, you know, moving ahead to another well. But I'd like to see that cost broken down in and of itself in terms of what's going on over well 3, because I agree with Councillor Pomeroy in terms of there is infrastructure there and stuff, and the water, I guess, is drinkable. It's just dirty. It's not pleasant to look at. But my big question is, how much is it costing us, right? If that place is costing us a couple $100,000 a year and we could do it for less, then I can't see why we wouldn't look at that. So
as part of the process, I think that's what we'll be looking at here, is do the comparators here and see which one, you know, like, I think everybody's making good points here as far as whether you put a new well in and then offsetting the cost of ozone. I think that'll be part of the report that comes back to us. The only thing I see with number 12 is we should be separating the cell 3 for the waste from the well 3. I think they're two different things. We want to keep moving on the cell 3 there too. So should it not be separated, Wendland?
Yeah, we could do that.
Well, I don't know what council's thoughts are, but we need to keep moving on that cell 3 option as well. So they're two different things there. So if we get hung up on one, we don't want to hold back the other. So I think we should pull them out separately. So just my thoughts. Is that okay with everyone?
I agree with that. Yep.
Okay. All right then. So we'll just keep, I don't know whether you need a resolution, but I think these guys are already doing that. So let's continue on. And, you know, it's something like everybody's saying, it's important to us. So everything here is important, but it's just, let's come up with help us make the decision on which way to go. So go ahead then.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin. Those two projects are being treated as separate items. So
Okay.
we're investigating. They're listed together as item 11, but they are being treated as two separate projects.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I'd let Bob maybe discuss number 13 for the private roads.
For you, Mayor Martin. So further to a previous budget meeting, staff did bring a report to a regular council meeting regarding this item. So the item remains in limbo. So it's not on our list at the moment.
So it's something that comes up every year, and I know I'm one of the ones that keeps pushing this thing, but it's up to council here. It's the idea was a $15,000 grant through the OMPF or whatever, and creating a policy that's made in Havelock. So or Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. So it's up to council here whether today's the day, whether you pull it off or whether we leave it on. So what's your thoughts? There's no budget implication to it if it comes from the grant, but there is if you want to dig into the weeds. So go ahead, Barry.
I'll make a motion, we pull it off.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that it gets pulled off. Do I have a seconder? I can't see. Deputy Mayor Duro?
My hands up.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? And I can't see Councillor Ellis, so all in favor of that motion? Whoop. Okay, it's carried.
Just, no, it isn't. Sorry, Jim.
Go ahead.
Councillor Ellis declared a conflict of interest on that the last meeting, so he can't vote on it.
Okay,
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy.
okay. So there's a mover and a seconder, then I better call the question, but he's still sitting here, so I just took it that he was going to vote this time. So All in favor of the motion then?
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
just
ahead,
wondering if this is gonna be funded through grant money. I'm wondering why we're, and obviously I think I'm the one that asked for a policy to be developed before we went ahead with this, so I can see the hesitation in terms of, wanting to have a policy in place or whatnot, but in terms of grant money that's available to our constituents, can somebody offer me a reason why you're not supporting this?
Okay. Deputy Mayor Jarrell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Webb, for the opportunity to speak to this. I'm not opposed to a grant policy. What I was opposed to and didn't get an opportunity to speak of was the way that the staff brought, not the way they brought it back, but the policy and procedures of the policy that we received from staff, how it would work. I don't think under our municipal act that we are allowed to create a policy that would take money and have a lottery system. Who's going to get it? I think there'd have to be a lot of research into this before I would put my hand up to support a policy like that. We can't simply take grant money, which is taxpayers' money, and say, okay, we're going to give $500 to Road A. Road A, B, C, and D applied for that grant. I really don't think we have, and maybe we do. If we do, that's great. But I don't think under the Municipal Act we have that power. If I'm wrong, I will say I'm wrong. I am not opposed to helping cottage roads. Believe me, I would be the first one to put my hand up to say that if we can create a gravel, help them in any way possible. But I don't think, and Wendland, you may help me out here, or Bob, I don't think we can create that kind of a policy. And that's why I didn't vote for it. It's not because I didn't want to. Thank you.
Okay. And I think there were several policies from around the province that they're using. So I'll open it up to council. I'll just get Bob's perspective, or Wendland. One of you want to speak to the idea of creating a policy. Is that
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. So the staff report that was brought to council simply brought other examples from other townships of the possibility of a made in HBM policy. So made in HBM policy has not been created yet. The funding of that policy has not been decided yet. So simply we brought back options from other townships, and council was given the option to either choose to proceed with a made in HBM policy or not. And at this point, the decision was not to proceed.
okay? Hart, go ahead, and then Barry, did you have your hand up?
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So I take it that this is being done in other townships? In other ways, but grant money is being, so it is legal then? I don't know. I think Deputy Mayor Giroux asked a good question in terms of the Municipal Act, but I'm just saying that other townships are doing this. I'm not seeing, is this a yes or no?
Yeah, there's several of these around us. Well, Wollaston has one, Marmor Lake has one.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that there's really no budget impact here. It's grant money. And I get like in terms of wanting to have a policy, Deputy Mayor, I agree with you in terms of I don't want to be the one picking winners and losers here, but in terms of handing out grant money, we do that here every day in our jobs when we get grant money in terms of choosing which roads we fix, what buildings get fixed. So I understand that point, and obviously dealing with the public and their private roads, it's going to be a little bit trickier, but I really think this is something that our staff could handle.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, and look at Marmor and Lake today, where they're at. You know, I was talking to a chap from Marmor here a couple weeks ago, and he's telling me that they're looking for a 20% tax increase this year and probably next year. He said, you know, we've created our own problem down here. They're blaming it on the new mayor, but it's something that's been going on for a while. And, you know, if you start with one group, you're going to have to deal with them all. And it's, you know, it's private roads, and we have, you know, hundreds of private roads. It's like giving them a rebate on their taxes. We don't set the tax rate in HBM. That is done by MPAC. And, you know, if you can afford to live where you are on a private road, it's taxed fairly. It's, you know, equalized assessment. We
Okay.
probably have more roads than any other township around if we ever took that on, because we have so many lakes. It's not just one group here. It's for everyone. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, and Councillor Ellis, are you declaring conflict here? Go ahead. You're muted.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've had to declare a conflict of interest because I live on a cottage road that is managed, has a bank account, and would be one of the roads that would be having their hand up to apply for some of the grant money. So that's why, just to be clear, because I've been challenged a little bit about should I have declared a conflict of interest. So that's why I declare a conflict of interest, just for everybody's information there. I'd also like to say, as anybody sitting at this table that knows, that I've been one of the strong advocates for lakefront property owners. We all recognize the amount of taxes that we collect from them and the situation we'd be in if we didn't have it. So, but saying that, I was advised, and it was my decision that I needed to declare a conflict. And just one last thing, we also talked about setting up an authorization where if a road manager from a certain fire road came forward, that they could get products through the municipality at the municipality's cost. And I hope that's not forgotten when we discuss what's going on here. Thank you.
Okay, so Bob, so we have a mover and a seconder. Go ahead.
So, sorry, through you, Mayor Martin, prior to the vote, Councillor Ellis has declared a conflict. We will remove him from the meeting
A little
until
late.
this discussion is concluded.
Yeah, it's kind of late, but it doesn't matter. I think where we're going to go here then is pretty well same as last time. It's there's a mover and a seconder, so I'll call the vote here as far as in favor of the motion. I'll call it now. Who's in favor of the motion? And against? It's a split, so it's lost, or it's won. So it's same as last time. So we can take that off of the sheet this time. Again. Okay. So we'll move on. We can bring Larry back in here. Go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Just a moment.
Well, I thought the motion failed.
It failed. No, well, how's that work then, Bob? It's the same as last time, isn't it? It was the motion was moved.
Through you, Mayor Martin,
fails.
the motion is moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux, that this item be removed from the 2021 budget.
Okay.
The vote was a hung vote, so the motion is defeated.
Okay.
So this
Sorry.
matter remains
On the
neither
table.
in the budget or out of the budget. There's no action on this item.
No action then. Okay. Well, same sort of thing. So thank you, Councillor Webb. Okay. So no action. We'll move on to the next number 14, Wendland.
Yeah, so number 14, that has
Sorry,
been
one moment.
removed.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
we're just
sorry.
gonna let Counselor Ellis back into the meeting.
Okay,
There we are.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
So number 14, that was taken out of the budget from the last discussion and direction from council. So is there any questions on that?
the only comment I had is we had a lot of discussion this week, and I was going to say that at the beginning with regards to the schedule, replacement schedule. And one of the things that came out of this week's discussion is that we need to update it. And that's going to happen. Hopefully, if council's okay, it needs to be updated as soon as the budget's finished. There's no way we can work on this schedule, the replacement schedule, and complete this budget. It's going to take probably a good month or two to update everything on there. So we've kind of been working around what we have, and what came out of the last meeting was like you said, the zero turn was removed from the budget. I did say I'm totally against that, as far as that's something in the schedule that this isn't going to have any tax implications. It's already paid for. But if that's what council wants to do, I would like to make sure staff tracks all the costs that we put into this year, into this piece of equipment. It's probably a $15,000 piece of equipment that it won't take long to eat that up if we have any major problems with it. So anyways, I'm sure we track all the repairs on these things, and that's something that we can look at next year to see if it paid off by chincing out here. So anyways, it's go ahead, Dave.
You're muted, Dave.
Thank you. I'm glad to see this back on. I thought it was off, but I wasn't in favor of taking it off in the first place. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth, because it was in our replacement schedule. So I'm just glad to see it back on, to have another discussion about it. Maybe the rest of council feels the same way as they did before, but at least it should go around the table.
Okay, Councilor Conroy, go ahead.
Yeah, another year out of it, Mr. Mayor. Could we try that? You know, we're trying to save dollars and get our fleet in order. That's in progress. And I would like to see us try it. If it's only a year, and maybe it's a bad mistake, but it might be a good one too. So
Yeah, and that's one of the things when we do the replacement schedules. This is one thing that I have a little idea. I know we had it when we first bought a zero turn, because there's a big expensive things. Tractors, $2,000 or $3,000, not a big deal, but a zero turn is pretty expensive. And so we had them at 5 years, and we upped it to 7 years, which I think is right in line with a replacement. The 5 years was too short. It's one of those things that it still has lots of life left in it. Right now, you're right. We can gamble and see what we get out of it. I just know what it costs to fix these things, and that's why we have a replacement schedule, and that's why we should really go by what is there. It's one thing to tweak it, but to start extending the life of things that it's like we can gamble. So it's up to council here. I'll just leave it up to them. I'm just telling you what I know as far as my background with lawnmowers, and personally, if it was mine, I wouldn't be keeping it. So I did that with one, and I'm into a lot of money every year. But go ahead.
well, it says on the sheet here to be removed, so we must have made a
Yeah.
decision at the last meeting. So I don't even see why it should be on there. But anyway, carry on.
Okay, I think this is just summarizing the last meeting and making sure that we want to keep it the way it is. I think that's what we've done with everything on here. So is there any other discussion on that, or I can't see Larry, so but I can. Does anybody want to discuss it or make any motions, if we want to, or just leave it the way it is? I'm not seeing anything. So
No, you can't see me, but it was removed, as Councillor Pomeroy said, last last meeting. So if we're gonna gamble, let's gamble and see how we make out. I think we're tweaking other equipment replacement schedules, and I know we've already done that, but I guess, well, time will tell whether one more year will survive the equipment, so.
Okay, so I'm hearing leave it removed from the budget, and that's fine. Let's gamble. So next is the railing. It's on here again, and I know we dealt with it last time. It's another thing that when I look at that railing over there, let's gamble, see if anybody falls off the railing, over the railing or not. If that's what we're going to do, it was decided to remove that from the budget. Go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, and in doing so, the reason was our employees worked a weekend and did some welding, grinding, welding and painting. And I think it's negligent on a lot of councillors' parts that they never looked at this railing when it was finished, because they did a fair job. And I'm sure that it'll last for, I don't know how many more years, but anyway, like it doesn't have all the rust that it had on it or rotten. They replaced it. So I think everyone should maybe stop and have a look at it when you're going in.
Okay, and our building inspector is here. Everything's good there, John? You're saying it's good? I'm not seeing John, so. Okay, there you are.
I haven't had a chance to look at it since the last council meeting. I will be looking at it with the manager from Parks and Rec, and we'll get back to council at that time.
That's good. So we'll just leave it like it is then. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next wastewater, or waste lagoons, or wastewater and treatment.
Yeah, so both number 16 and 17 are in process.
Okay,
That was followed up on.
all right then. Any questions or comments about that? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
16 and 17 through you, Mr. Mayor. I know council made a decision to look at the progress on the lagoons. Those lagoons were taken out of service for a reason, so I really hope we're not going back down that road. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the focus will be on the cell 3 as far as I think that's our priority, but I think that was just a backup plan if I understood. But anything, is there any staff got anything to add to that?
Maybe Peter would like to comment on lagoons.
Okay. I'm not.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, sorry for the delay. Yes, I understand that was correct. It was a backup plan as I understand it as well. They were speaking in terms of overflow for catchment if the plant cannot handle the wastewater per day if we do have fluctuations of infiltration. But that was my understanding as well, and I think that would be a fair explanation if we can use it for an emergency type of a system instead of where it is now, I guess I should say.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, so that's another one that's there's not a whole lot of budget implications right now until we find out the studies, get the study back.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we're waiting to get the study back and a price as well as what it's going to entail, I believe. And I would yes, I know right now it's I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but yeah, I think that would be a wise, that would be a staff recommendation to use as an emergency plan down the road. And hopefully we can get the third cell online here quicker than they're estimating.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from council?
Councillor Pomeroy has his hand up. I don't know if you can see him.
No, I can't.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm just curious as to the studies that were, or to the work we had done last year on the flows and the repairs that were done on them. Have we got any facts and figures on how much has decreased? I wouldn't imagine we do because we didn't have high water. But there has to be some significant change. And, you know, have they fixed a lot of it, or is it only part of it? I don't know. But we don't have any facts and figures for to go by, and, you know, we're trying to get we don't even know how much this lagoon's gonna cost. If it's gotta be repaired, like Deputy Mayor Giroux said, there was a life expectancy on it, and I think it went. And if there's a hole in it, we're throwing good money after bad, but I realize we have to have something there. But the big thing is if we could get a push on for the other cell at well 3, because we've built houses over in that area too, and there could be a little bit of a stench if we use the lagoons again. But I'd like to know when we're going to get the facts and figures back from our work that we done last year on repairing and cammering the system.
Peter?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to answer some of the questions from Councillor Pomeroy. We have staff actually putting together graphs of the flows that we receive monthly from Aqua. So they are, some of the monthlies are down on flows to the wastewater. The real key here is that as soon as we get into the next month or two with the infiltration from the groundwater as it rises and the water table, then we will be able to have a full year in since they did the work on the sanitaries to see exactly how much and what the difference is.
Yeah, Peter, is there any significant change that you can see?
Yes, in the month, yes, actually in the months that we have looked at, there is some differences for sure. They are lower, but it could be, again, it could be just the season, the weather, the environment. Could be a different, weather in the summer being a drier season. So until we get a full year in, but they do look better, that's for sure.
Is it significantly better, like a lot better, or just better?
Some of the months were significantly better. Yes, some of the months were significantly better, but again, I think it's on the weather and the water table and where it's at.
Okay, I'd probably like to stop and see the flow charts there, just for to ease my own mind.
Yes, definitely. If you ask Leah in the office, she can pull it up in seconds there, and it's all right there.
Okay, thanks, Pete.
Yep.
Okay, so there again, this is going to help us make better decisions when we get all this information together. So I think it's good that we're working on it. And I think one of the ideas was one of the lagoons didn't have a leak, and I think that's the one that they were looking at using if possible. But let's see where it comes out. It's a great backup if we can have it without too much cost. But we'll get all the information together, and it'll help us make a proper decision on that. So go ahead, Gwendolyn.
Yep. So number 18 for the reserve fund policy, that will happen right after the budget's passed. And we're in the midst of just starting our 2020 audit. So once that's underway, we can get that policy before council.
Yeah, and I think like Councillor Webb said, that'll help us before we finalize the budget, or even if we have finalized the budget, if we could get those numbers on the reserves there. We've got $5 million sitting in grant money. We need to know what's allocated, and what isn't, we should be spending it. It's not to sit in the bank. So that's one of the things that we've been doing in the past. And I think that's why we're not doing much. That's one of the reasons why this budget is 1.73%, because there's not a lot in it. We've got 1 or 2 roads in it. I'm used to seeing 5 or 6 roads in it. We don't have too much in here at all. This is probably for the times with COVID, it's probably good to come in at a low tax rate, but keep in mind, there's not a lot of work happening either. So that's what you get for 1.73. Go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have to agree with you there, and I would like to see more money put in the budget for roads. It's, you know, there's a lot of our roads that are in need, and some of them that we looked at before on a tour. I think from the 7th line, like Round Lake Road, from the 7th line back out to 46. That would be what, 3-4 years ago, we said that should be redone because it's so full of potholes and so on and so forth. There's some roads that are in worse shape than that. I'm like you, there's not enough money being spent on the roads.
So that being said, if we can get the update on the what we have there in OMPF and things like that, that's what we usually use for them. So
Yep.
there might be a possibility of, without holding this budget up, that we could, if there's some extra cash that we can allocate to maybe even one more road in the township and maybe something in the town, whatever we need to do. If Peter's okay with that, I think they could probably handle. We talked other years even about preparing a road so it's ready for hardtop the next year. Some of those things, Peter, if there's a way of preparing a road, if you picked from your road, I know your road needs study isn't done, but there's still a bit of a model there that you've been going by as far as like you haven't been flying by the seat of your pants. You do have some numbers to go by. So if you could come up with another road or something, council might be interested in looking at some of our OMPF money to maybe get one more road done, or maybe even prepare one for hardtop next year. I don't know what you think of that.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to council. Yes, no, that's fine. We can, if what we have in place in budget, we can get accomplished and finished up this year and work on one for the following year, do some ditching, culverts, and brushing. We can go with that route as well. The roads need study. I have had a look at the draft. They had some changes to be made in it, so hopefully we'll have that in the next month, and we can use it as well as maybe as our last roads need study and some knowledge from staff to choose another road that or repair parts or go forward with another one for sure.
Okay. Larry, then Barry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The Sawmill Bay Road, Peter, that's still scheduled for this summer, right?
Through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Ellis. Yes, it is. It's in the budget. Yes.
And is that going to be done in the same manner as what we did at Burnt Dam Road?
It will be in the same manner. Yes, it'll be built up. It'll probably be more similar to the 8th line, the section down on the 8th that we repaired or reconstructed last summer. That road needs to be brought up. It's a corduroy road there now, and it needs to have a good base on it. So culvert, or I think there's 2 culverts there that we'll have to do some replacing as well.
Correct. And just one last comment. Our Round Lake Road, the section from the dance hall pavilion out to 46, that road was done 2 years ago, and less than months it was falling apart. It's a good example of a road that's not prepared properly. So, you know, we did talk about redoing that road last year. Anyway, it's a continual patch and fill as your crew does do a good job doing it, but that's the reason why, because the road base wasn't prepared properly from that company. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm doing quite a bit of driving around too, and to my recollection, the 11th line south from 7, which is DJ Trailer Road, that used to be hard surfaced at one time, and it's not. No, I think Peter was doing some experimenting. He was gonna put down some cloth on this end of it or something a year ago. Anyway, it seems to be in pretty good shape, and I don't think it would take that much, to get it in good shape. It's been packed down. It's not washboardy. It's just one that maybe Pete could have a look at because, that's another road that's close to either do something with it or be like County Road 42 over there. They're gonna lose it if they don't soon do something. But anyway, I don't want to lose anything. It's still in pretty good shape, and it shouldn't cost that much to get it ready for hard surfacing.
So I think the best way to leave it is that, Peter, you bring back some recommendations from your road needs that you have and from the past here that you could help council out with that decision on picking up if we do have money in the OMPF or somewhere that's not going to hold the budget up or not going to affect the budget here right now. If you see an opportunity there to help us get another road in there somewhere, you can bring back a recommendation to us. Does that work for you?
Yes, definitely. Through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, that's probably the best, and we'll get all the information from the roads need study, and then we can put together a report and bring something back. And I am aware too of a contractor locally that has a new material. It's been tested about 5 years now. They're classifying it as a little bit better than a surface treatment, but not quite asphalt. So it's a bit more money, but it does wear a little bit longer and lasts a little bit better as well. So I can do some research on that material as well and bring a report back to council.
That'd be great. So Larry, go ahead.
Just one last thing through you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anything planned from the county to address the roads, the county roads in our municipality this year?
Yeah, but Dave, did you want to speak to that? Or there's a couple of projects that I have to look at them again, but one was a bridge up there by Preston Road, I think is on there. And the other one is there's a huge amount of 46 that's going to be microsurfaced. I think it's about 700,000. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, that's basically the figure. Those are 2 projects, and without my sheet in front of me, I know there's others, but off the top of my head, I can't tell you what they are. But there's
We'll bring it to the next meeting, Larry.
Yes, if we could get a report back from you guys from the county side of things, so the municipality is aware of what's going on.
Yeah, they have a great program that you can go on to. We'll bring back the information anyway, so you can look and see what's happening each year. And yeah, there's I think we have 2 major things happening again this year, so we're doing okay. So, okay. So Wenlin, I think that's going to help us as far as the next meeting is, we could bring back the grants and what's allocated, what isn't. Maybe we could add a couple more things in on that side of it. And see where it ends up. So, okay.
So
Is there any other questions? I can't see Hart. So as far as, is everybody okay with that? We can move on. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, so on number 19, just an update there. I had a Zoom meeting with the TD Bank last Friday afternoon. So we're going to be looking into potentially doing some EFT transfers to some of our vendors, which will cut down on paperwork, getting the labor to get things signed, stationery, postage, etc. So we're going to be looking at that to be implemented in 2021, but it won't affect the budget per se, but it will have some cost savings there. I got an email yesterday that I have to review for costings.
Okay, good. All right then, any questions, comments? Go ahead.
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Wendland. We did have that discussion last budget meeting, and it's always worthwhile questioning when you're paying. So
Yeah.
There to be a benefit. Thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of we've had quite a few inquiries from different vendors due to the COVID to pay them by EFT because they don't have people physically in their offices to accept the checks and whatnot. So that's one of the other issues we need to resolve. So if there's no other questions, so number 20, I did some research with Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and we can use the 2020 residual COVID funding and the 2021 COVID funding that we've received recently to potentially, we had discussed offsetting the sewer and water rates. So the budget that's presented in the draft today is still at the increased amount, but if council wishes, it would still go, like the bylaw would still be passed at what the rate should be, and then council could subsidize from the COVID funding for a one-year basis and still send the water and sewer bills out at the current rate from 2020. But it would have to be communicated clearly to the residents that this is just a temporary measure and that come 2022, that rate that was set in 2021, they would see that full rate plus whatever other increase would happen in 2022. So it would give them time to budget for that.
Okay. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, let's just look after 2021 here to start with. And then we'll see what 2022 brings us.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so, and the one last thing that you had in there, Wendell, was, and we'll have to deal with it as far as we had an overrun last year that it's not in the budget right now, so we're gonna have to decide. And that can wait till we know where the reserves are at. But that $95,000 for North School Road overrun.
Yeah, the auditors will be presenting the financial statements at the next council meeting on March the 2nd. So council could ask questions based on those surplus deficits from 2019. But I would think that maybe once we get the equipment and vehicle schedules in place quickly, that we could review what the funding requirements are based on the surplus deficits being melded into those reports.
Okay. All right then. So that's an end of the summary from the last meeting, and I don't know what your thoughts are or what your hopes are, but we have some things to sort out on the first meeting of March. But is it possible to bring a bylaw to that meeting, or would that be rushing it to have some, allow an hour or whatever discussion to tidy up some loose ends and see if as far as the budget implications, I don't think there's anything other than the using grant money and things like that. So it's not going to affect any of this part of it, is it?
No, so I could bring a bylaw to the March 2nd meeting, and I would sit down with Peter to discuss any further options he'd like to see for roads. So it wouldn't impact the percentages. But I was just to back up a bit for the sewer and water, I would like some sort of resolution from council for the sewer and water to use the COVID funding to supplement that. So that would be part of the final budget presentation.
Yeah.
Because that council's wishes.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's, yeah, so we would need a resolution with regards to that we use the COVID money to offset the water rates for this year. They will come back next year for, they'll be showing in the budget as an increase, but they won't be billed. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So if somebody, Deputy Mayor Giroux and then Councillor Ellis.
Just a question on that. The water and sewer rates, are they to all users or just residential, or are they for
All users, both residential and commercial.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Giroux. That was part of my questioning. I also, because we have people that are following our video virtual meetings, I had one call from somebody in the rural area saying, if we're using COVID funding to support and help the people in the village, which is great, what kind of support or help is there for people that are struggling in the rural area through COVID?
So if council had a suggestion that they wanted to use, that could be incorporated as well.
Well,
So I didn't know if you had any specific.
I didn't have an answer. I didn't have an answer for the individual, but that did bring up a good point. So I'll leave it with staff or council to discuss. It was a question. Thank you.
Yeah, it is kind of an off spin too, like with the commercial within the village that helps the small businesses within the community to still provide those services to the greater township.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with what we're doing, but I just
Yeah.
felt that I needed to ask the question because people watch and
Yeah.
And that was a
And
question.
if council has any other suggestions that they would like to see, we can put that forward.
Thank you, Wendell.
Okay. All right, then, and that's something good to review, council, is look at that those COVID grants and just see if there's something that it might fit in to help all the ratepayers, not just the village, but there's a lot of specifics in there that it can go towards. So and it's mostly for operating, not capital. So is that right, Wendell?
Yes, at this stage.
Yeah. Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So had we been a little sooner in the budget and talked about this sooner, then I guess the churches in our municipality that provide service to both village and the township would have been eligible to put in for capital then. They've been shut down for almost a year. All our churches, they still have overhead too. So
Yeah. So it wouldn't be for capital, it would be for operating expenses.
operating, pardon me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. That's a good point, Dave, as far as you should look at the budget. I was going to look at it as far as like you say, there's a lot of things like the seniors building and Legion, all the not-for-profits that are paying water bills every month and they're not even open. So if there's any way of helping them, I think the Economic Development Committee was looking at some of that too. So there's a lot of things that we need to look at as a council to see how we can help these people get over the hump. And otherwise we won't have them in the future. So I'm not saying the churches, but everybody's affected. So go ahead, Hart.
Yeah, I was just going to say what you said, Jim, there, and that hopefully next week the Economic Development Committee will be meeting, and we're going to be looking at ways. I think we have a bit of that CIP money left over, so we're going to be looking at developing a policy to get some of that money out to some of these groups, whether it be, as Dave said, churches, the seniors, support groups. We had a few businesses that were completely shut and weren't allowed to open at all during that time. So, and I guess the the help we can provide them would be limited in terms of our funds, but whether it be, you know, small things like help on a water bill or something like that, where we can, we'll look to do that. So hopefully we can get something, like I said, hopefully we'll meet next week. That'll probably be after our council meeting. So hopefully by the second meeting in March, I can come back with some kind of ideas for council to look at in terms of, you know, ideas in terms of how we could get this out to these people.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then, Wendland, did you want to recap where we're at then, or
So-
do you have the
We
area?
still need a motion for
Oh,
the sewer
okay,
water,
sorry.
if that's what you desire.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we, you want to do that, Barry?
Yeah, I thought David already made a motion.
I don't have it wrote down here. Did you move that, Dave? I seen the. Okay, you're moving it. Seconder? Barry, you seconding it?
Yep.
All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, so I'll build that in.
Okay. Go ahead, Barry.
So now do we need a motion, since we've gone through all this list, for to draft up a bylaw for to pass our budget at the next, do you want it done for the next meeting, Wendell?
Yep, if council wants it, I can have that done.
Okay, like we got to get on with it.
We need to
So-
move on and get that done.
And I don't
Okay.
think there's anything hidden in the agenda, so it's to me, it's a good, fair budget for everyone. And I'd like to thank Wendland and staff for all the time that they put into this, because it changes week to week, and hopefully we can get at it earlier in the next term.
Okay, so Councillor Pomeroy is moving that we bring back a bylaw for our first meeting in March. Is there a seconder?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any questions or comments with regards to that? Dave, go ahead.
Yep, you're on mute.
I'm trying to get off. Wendland, because we are just going to reaffirm our vote here, would you please, for those people that are watching, run down our percentages, what our
Yep.
tax increase would be, so it's
Yep.
very clear before the next meeting.
So the tax levy, which is the dollar value from 2020 to 2021, is 1.72%, which is equal to $113,054 more than last year. And the tax rate is 1.14%. So that would be an impact of $5.43 per $100,000 in assessment of residential.
Okay,
Thank you, Wendland.
so the total
Here.
for new money then, Wendland, is $113,000, is that?
Yes,
And in this, the assessment's built into the 1.1
yes.
or 1.774?
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So if everybody's okay,
So one last comment from Wendland, if I might, for the viewing public. Our total responsibilities, or our total number that we need to run this municipality for 2021, if you can give them that.
So that's $6,677,190.
Thank you, Wendland. I have it in front of me, but they don't.
Yep.
Well, I guess maybe they do now.
Yeah, Bianca has it up on the screen.
That's fine.
Yep.
I don't read my.
Okay.
Thank you.
so at the next meeting, Wendland, you can bring back the reserve thing too, and what's allocated and what isn't, to help us just finalize some
For sure.
last minute things there.
Yep.
And then once this is done, we'll get it, like you say, as soon as the budget's passed and we're moving on, we have to find out with regards to our reserves and what's available, what isn't, our investments, all of that stuff. And that's going to be a part of this budget as far as moving forward. We're going to have to find out where we stand. So for next year's budget, we can make a, more educated decision, or right now it's been a bit of a challenge. So,
Sorry to interrupt.
okay,
You can call your motion now. I'm sorry. to
yeah.
interrupt.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So we have ourselves a budget to go by. And are you good with that, Bob?
Doesn't have much choice.
There we go. Yes, through you,
Carried.
Mayor Martin, all is good.
Okay, all right then. So that's all we have on the agenda today. So I'll look for a confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by the seconder, Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. And the next is the motion to adjourn, Councillor Pomeroy and Councillor Webb. Thank you.
Jim,
Yeah.
can you stay on after we stop recording? Because I just got a question for council.